All right, we're all
That's
good.
good. Okay, awesome. So I'll just introduce myself one more time. So I'm Renee Wharton, and I am a job search coach for Find Your Fit. So basically, consulting. We help people in their job search from a bunch of different industries, age groups, and things of that nature. So I know this is a bit of an interesting way that we're having to do a workshop here. Some of you are in person in a classroom, some of you are online. So feel free to just wave me down, unmute yourself, type in the chat if you have any questions as we go along. Otherwise, we'll have plenty of time for that at the end of my presentation as well. I also would like to start with saying that I've been told that people can be anywhere from like 9th to 12th graders. So some of this stuff might seem pretty basic to you if you're like a senior and this isn't your first rodeo with a resume maybe. But pay attention, because even when I work with people who have been in the field for a really long time, a lot of these questions keep coming up about resumes and, just the basics and things like that. So, all right, go ahead and get started here. So just really quickly, our agenda is we're gonna just go over some resume basics so you understand kind of the purpose of resumes and things of that nature. We'll look at some resume samples in depth and some do's and don'ts. And then the workshop may take different forms, but basically you'll be able to work on your resume if you want to, and also ask questions and get feedback. So you might already know what a resume is for and why you are going to need one, but essentially what a resume is it is a way to capture who you are and what you have done in ideally a one-page document that you're going to be able to share with employers. As you can see, I have colleges on here. It's not super common for colleges to require resumes in the application, but some of them do. And then certainly some scholarships out there for colleges are also going to require resumes just to see proof of, did you really have experience volunteering or doing whatever it is that their requirement for that scholarship is. You want it to look nice and be organized and things of that nature, because it is oftentimes the first impression that employers are going to have of you. And like I said, it's just a way to highlight your skills and experiences so that you can easily send that information out. Something that's important to note is we spend a lot of time on our resume, so it kind of hurts to hear that a recruiter or an employer might just skim over maybe only the first half of your resume or just the job titles of your resume. Point is, they're not looking at it very long the first time, especially if they have a lot of applicants. And so it's important that you have a document and content that's going to really catch their eye and make them want to read more. So as I mentioned, for high school and college students, you really are going to want that document to be one page. And some of you, that's going to be easy. You're like, great, I don't even know what to put on my resume. And others of you might be like, I'm super involved. And it's already 2 pages and I don't know how to get it down to 1. So we can talk about that in a little bit, but it is very important to have it to 1 page. And then what are employers looking for in a resume? So obviously want it to be easy to read. Like I said, we have to have the right content on there, and they also have to get to it quickly. And you want it to be free of spelling or grammatical errors. Highlight skills that are related specifically to the job. So I know that right now in high school, you don't have a ton of experience. So it's okay to actually put some experiences on there that don't relate directly to the job, just to show that, you have had like a small job or some kind of experience. So don't worry about that too much, but as you go through your career and get more experience, you will want to just make sure you're really highlighting the skills specific to that job. And then you're wanting to demonstrate that you are responsible as well, because that is going to be something that they're definitely looking for in your age group, are people that are going to be dedicated, come to work on time, and be able to have a good day's work. So, a lot of times, and I've done a lot of mock interviews with high school students. I actually, by day, am an admissions recruiter for North Hennepin Community College. So I do a lot of mock interviews with my high school students. And I commonly see that maybe you haven't had a job before. I didn't have my first job till I was in college. So totally fine. But what do you put on your resume in that case? So you're going to want to put any kind of community involvement that you've had, any school activities that you're doing. So if you're involved in sports, definitely put that on there. If you have done any volunteering, absolutely put that on there. Even if you just have had like a summer mowing the lawn job or nannied some kids, that is all up for grabs kind of stuff that you can put on a resume until you are able to gain more applicable experience in the job market. And then, hold on, I want to make sure I have my notes here and that I cover everything. You are going to want to make sure to include your contact information. Again, I know that this is stuff that you guys are like, yes, I know that, but we don't necessarily put our address anymore on resumes. That's getting a little bit outdated. So typically we just put our city and state. You're going to want to include your email and make sure that it's a professional email. I used to have an email that was like rockergal277, and I definitely had to create a more professional email once I left high school. And then you're also going to want to include your phone number. So those are 3 components you definitely want to make sure to have. And you want it to be near the top so they don't have to search around for it. You're going to want to include your experience, which we've already kind of talked about. Really focusing on the skills that you have. So a lot of times I'll see people just like list things off like a job description, and that's fine, but like you're basically just regurgitating to me what the job was, but not necessarily what skills you gained or what impact you had while you were there. So we'll go into it a little bit more on how to like build more robust bullets, but that's something to spend time on. Show what your activities and interests are. So especially if you are kind of lacking in the job experience department, feel free to put clubs on there, any extracurricular activities. I mean, I never played sports. That was not really me. I was more artsy and into video games and stuff like that, but I did do karate. If you are in robotics club or something like that, definitely make sure to include those things on there. And then obviously you're going to want to include your education. That's going to be very important for you as someone that's going to be a fresh grad or currently still in school applying to things. So over here on the right, I say use bullet points. So I think it's pretty widely accepted that the best way to format a resume is to do bullets because they're quick to read. You're able to get your highlights across of your accomplishments pretty quickly. And so I have a bullets formula down here at the bottom. To build a really good bullet, you're going to want to start with a skill, or what I like to call a power verb. It's going to be something that's very action oriented. I've seen a lot of people say stuff like responsible for, or oh, what's another one? They're just very passive words. Like it's like I was given this task, not that I actively did this thing. So make sure to include that to start with because it's very eye-catching. Explain what you did. And then if you happen to have a result or some kind of outcome for that, like I know you guys probably don't have metrics or anything like that necessarily, but even just including some numbers in there. I think it's on this next page. Hold on. Yeah, like if you look down at this sample, the before and after. So the before is kind of what I was talking about, where some people just say assisted with inventory, built displays for featured products, and like that's fine, but it's way more detailed and eye-catching to see that they've built these things out. So instead of assisted with inventory, this person assisted with daily and monthly inventory of over 1,200 domestic and foreign products. That would make me, as a recruiter or a hiring manager, want to know more about that kind of thing. And to help you kind of think about what you might want to plug into your bullets, think about who it is that you were serving in that position. So if it was retail or a food job, you're obviously working with customer facing a lot, so make sure to talk about customer experience. Maybe how many customers you served in a day, just like estimated. You're going to think about what happened with the results. So, I mean, is there a story or an example where you were commonly like employee of the month, or it doesn't even have to be that, but just you were commonly acknowledged by your supervisor or peers for being really good at serving customers? And then also think about, when did this happen? So, this one's not as big, but like sometimes instead of just telling me you worked on a project, like I don't know if that was a week, I don't know if it was 6 months. So that's going to help me kind of quantify, you know, how in depth you went on an experience. And then where did your duties occur? Um, this is just trying to help you kind of think of like descriptors for this, and then why and how. Why did you do this, and how did it add to the organization's ability to function? So don't be afraid to explain kind of some of the reasoning or impacts that you had in a role. And again, if this is kind of like freaking you out because you're like, I was a cashier, like I don't know what you want me to put. This is just to try to heighten it to the next level, but it's totally fine if all you can manage to put is, you know, greeted customers in the checkout lane, and always provided high quality customer service. Like that is totally fine. Okay, so now I know that this is not going to be the most interesting part. I am going to dig in kind of deeply and talk about these resumes a little bit, but this is probably going to be the most useful part, especially if you're a senior and this isn't your first rodeo with a resume. So I'm going to talk about where you're going to want to place your experience and kind of how you're going to want to format it. So it's very common for me to see resumes in either of these formats, sometimes having the lines across. People ask me, is that going to mess up like ATS readers, which is basically what some companies that are very large use to feed your resume through and see if you meet the qualifications. That does not affect it. So if you like to break up your resume that way and make it super clean, you can do that. You can do it without the lines. But the things that I really want you to pay attention to are going to be where the education is placed. You always want education to be the very top header section until you graduate college. If you end up going to college, you're going to want that. And even as a recent grad from like high school or college, you're going to want that to be there. And then as you gain more experience in life, it can go to the bottom of your resume. For things that you're going to want to include, you're going to want to include your high school name. That will eventually disappear if you go to college. You'll want to take that off. If you have a GPA that is 3.0 or over, you are going to want to include that on your resume. And then if you have any courses that you've taken that are relevant to what you're wanting to do. So like I heard that Brian is, I believe he said, in the automotive program. So if he's wanting to go like be a mechanic or work in that kind of industry, he's going to maybe want to advertise some of those specific classes, or at least say that he was involved in that program. Which is going to really draw their attention. And then of course, if you were on honor roll or anything of that nature, you're going to want to include that in this section. I do want to point out at the top, both of these resumes have what I would call a professional summary. You don't have to put these. I think it's very much a personal preference. Like, I think it's kind of nice if they're short and brief like these are, because it kind of shows what it is that you're going to be seeking or some softer skills about yourself. This is a good area to put, like Jacqueline put that she's dependable and self-motivated, but certainly don't feel that you have to put this area, but it could be something good to add if you're wanting to add more to your resume, like you're lacking content. So that could be a good thing to do. The next area is going to want to be experience or employment. You can call it either one. And this is where you're going to want to put either your paid work experience or I mean, I guarantee you this nameless person on the right, yearbook club is not paid. So they're just trying to show like, this is the experience that I have, and they have quite a few bullets for it. I also gather just by looking at this person's resume, they have a lot of stuff to do with newspapers, yearbooks. Further down, they talk about experience with like HTML and Dreamweaver, and they received a prize for illustration. I'm thinking that they're wanting to go down that route of either like graphic design or journalism or something. So this is a way that even though they haven't had a paid job, they're able to highlight their skills to the area that they're wanting to go into. So anyways, you can just look and see that it's typical to include the title that you had at a job, the name of the company, the location, and then the years that you worked there. Something I want to point out is you do want to go in chronological order. So you want most recent to be at the top, and then you work backwards. You might look at the nanny job on Jacqueline, which is her second one. It says she started in 2004 to present. And it might confuse you if you look at the cashier TJ Maxx job that she has under that, because technically it started in 2005. So you'd be like, well, wouldn't I put that above the one that started in 2004? But something to note is if it's still present for you, if you're still working in that job, it's always going to go above something that you've already completed. If that just confused you, don't worry about it too much. But the point is you do want to go from present to things that you're not doing anymore. Oops. There we go. Okay. If you have community service included on there, it's always a good place to put under employment. If you don't have volunteer experience or anything like that, don't sweat it. Extracurricular activities is good to put under that. As you can see, she puts sports related things. She's on debate team. And then if you compare it to this person over here, they actually included their extracurricular activities as their experience. So they don't have a section for that. Instead, they included an additional skills area, which is kind of nice. So if you happen to be going into a field where like CAD software or, you know, more technical kind of skills that you need to know, that could be a good section for you to add if you have experience in those. And then this person also had an awards and honors section. Don't sweat it if you don't have anything like that. Just know that it is an option, and I think it goes away the more experience you gain in your career, but it's perfectly acceptable and kind of looked for if you are a high school or college student. So I believe that's most of what I would like to say about those, and we can always come back to them if you guys end up having more questions. And then I quickly wanted to touch on what a reference is. So another thing that's common for job applications and sometimes college applications is they may ask for a reference or a reference letter. So basically a reference is a person who can vouch for your work. You're not going to just want to pick someone that likes you. If somebody has not seen your work or is not able to attest to your skills and your character, I guess, then they're not going to be a very good reference for you. It's also important to pick a reference who will talk positively about you. I have been a recruiter before for a company, and you wouldn't believe how many references I called where they actually had some negative stuff to say about the person. So make sure that you're going to choose someone that is going to be able to speak positively about you. And then it should be an adult who is not related to you. So make sure you're not picking like your Uncle Joe or something. Some good people to choose from are going to be teachers, coaches that you might have, supervisors if you have happened to have a job, or if you had that lawn mowing job or you nannied, it could be the person that you worked for. And then also mentors. So they don't have to be a formal title to you, but someone that you've looked up to and is able to attest to your abilities. You're going to want to aim for 2 to 3 references. That's pretty typical for them to ask for. And it's also polite to ask the person ahead of time if they're open to being a reference for you. Depending on the situation, you probably do want to tell them, hey, I'm applying to this job, or I'm going to be applying to colleges. And if it's a reference letter that you need, make sure to give them your resume and maybe some highlights of things that you would want them to touch on. Okay, so now we've reached the part where I was hoping that we could put some stuff into practice. I don't know where people are at on these, if people have a resume already and they just want to tweak it, or if you got to build it from scratch. And if you're watching this later on as a recording, feel free to do this stuff on your own. But this is what I would recommend is make sure that you create a resume header with your name, email, phone number, and then the city and state. Include section headers in the proper order. And it's not like law that you have to have it in a certain order, but I would highly, highly recommend education first and then your employment. You're going to want to do it in a bullet format, and I don't want you to get too hung up on doing it in that perfect formula that I was talking about and that you see down below. I'm the kind of person that sometimes I just need to get stuff down on paper, so I would recommend just get your experience down there, think about all the things that you've done, and then you can go back and make it look pretty and make it more robust. There are so many resources online for power verbs or action verbs or whatever it is that you want to call it for the starter words on a bullet for your resume. So you can just Google and find stuff like that. I found one that I thought was really helpful, and I'll actually click on it really quick just to show you guys. I'm gonna stop share, or hold on. Give me 1 second. In slideshow. And then this is one that I found that I really liked. Can you guys still see my browser? Jessica, can you nod? Perfect.
Yep, I can see it.
So this one is from Iowa State, and as you can see, they've even broken it up into sections for you and given you an example sentence. So like if you did planning related things or organizing, or if you scroll down and you were helping people or communicating, like it just gives you an array of action words to use and to kind of, it's kind of like a thesaurus, using different words and terms that are going to be eye catchy. So that's something that you can do when you're looking over your resume. But otherwise, that was all I had. What would you like to do from here, Jessa?
Yeah, I was just going to say one other quick thing.
Yeah.
When Renee was talking about adding parts to your resume that talk about your involvement, your extracurriculars, things like that, even community service, all of that, keep in mind that your participation in SkillsUSA is a huge one. So every single one of you has something you could put on your resume right away. And that's participation in SkillsUSA. If you go on to win one of our career competitions in April, that would be something you could add to your resume later. And I know that for now, you're really worried about putting together your one-page resume for your contest. But in the future, then you're going to be able to use that same resume to actually use, when you're applying to jobs and interviewing for jobs and things like that. And so you'd be surprised how many companies, in Minnesota and across the nation are familiar with SkillsUSA, and knowing that you've participated and won in an area is huge. And so definitely remember to include that. And SkillsUSA is another area where I think that, Renee made a really good point about your education kind of falls off after a time, your awards and achievements kind of fall off after a time. There are some pieces that stick around a little bit longer. And again, if you were a state winner or a national winner or an international winner or something like that, I think some of that, because it's related to your technical skilled expertise, some of that sticks around for quite a while. So I just wanted to kind of put that bug in your ear as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess, are there any questions? You can unmute, shout out.
Sydney was wondering if we could share the link that you had in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. Let me get that to you guys.
And then are there other questions or things specific to your resume that you would like help with, or anything like that from anybody in the group?
I actually could use some pointers if I could figure out how to share my screen.
Yeah, and let me stop
I
sharing.
can make you a host. I can make you a co-host, Brian. Give me a second. Okay, you should have the rights now.
Sweet. Okay. So can you see that? Oh, I have to hit share.
There you go.
Oh, it's loading. Okay, perfect. I can see it.
Is that the right? Can you see my Word document or do you see my desktop?
I see the
We got the Word document.
Okay. So this is my resume right now. I've kind of made some changes because we did one in our writing class at Dakota County. So I'm just wondering if organization wise, this is okay. And I'm kind of still patching it together. So like for education, I have my related coursework, and that's kind of one of the things we covered in class. And then I had employment at the bottom, but I moved it up above my applied skills. I'm wondering if that would look okay.
Okay. And you're actually a college student. I don't know why. I totally thought you guys were all high school students. So sorry about that if you guys are in college. Okay. So actually, so first off, I'm thinking that the style or like the format is actually a really good foundation. And you're wanting to know if you should do applied professional skills first or employment. Is that correct?
Yeah, because and it's definitely changed a lot since even just a year ago. So I kind of had some of my certifications that I originally got, which was like my digital multimeter stuff and just like the little things. But now that I've been in the industry now for almost 2 years, I can go more into diagnosis and inspections and customer service and stuff like that.
Sure.
Which is more larger points in autos. So I'm wondering, yeah, just if I should put employment after my applied professional skills, or I should put that right under related coursework.
I am by no means an expert in the automotive area. So Jessa, do you have any thoughts about this?
You know what's funny? I was thinking that if I were setting this up, I would maybe move related coursework down.
Okay.
And I would actually do employment first, because Brian, here's the key. You actually have experience doing it, right? Whereas somebody who's only done the classes needs to put the classes a little bit higher to say, well, I did, I mowed lawns in the summers, but I've also taken an advanced automotive electronics class, right?
Right.
You've done the work. And so I would say do education, employment, and then I think it's kind of a toss up between the related coursework and the skills, honestly, because they're both valuable. Brian, the other thing is, and Renee, you might have thoughts about this, but you've listed a lot of classes.
Yeah, I think it's a bit
too
much. You don't need to put all of them. I think
maybe just the advanced ones, or the higher level,
or ones where you learn specific, like, I don't know, you mentioned something about certifications. So if there were specific classes where it was like that kind of thing, that's what employers would be like, yes, like I need to know that he knows that kind of thing.
Yeah, like anything with fundamentals, probably leave off, right? Because it feels entry level, right? So yeah, I totally agree with Renee. Like, let's maybe focus just on anything advanced or where you learned a specific important skill that translates. Otherwise, your applied professional skill is going to be really key there.
Yep. Right. Can you scroll up a little bit back to your education? Okay. All right. You do have your associates on there. August 2019. I'd probably put if you know your intended graduation date, I would
Yeah, I was
probably
gonna
put,
ask that too.
I would put anticipated like May 2022 or whatever it is, instead of just present.
Yeah, Brian, are you graduating this May?
Yeah, I'll be graduating. I think it's the 14th of May.
Yeah. So
Okay,
just
you
do the
don't have
month,
to split
the month and the year.
yeah, just the month and year. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I think the formatting looks good, and just put some bullets in there for the
Yep.
employment and stuff. So,
Sweet.
and I see that it's spilling over onto a blank page somehow.
Yeah, I think that's just because I'm moving things around
Oh,
and,
sure.
and
Okay.
editing it.
Sounds good. Perfect. Anyone else have specific resume questions or want feedback on the resume?
See if I can. Sweet.
Right now I have like a bunch of activities and stuff for like school because I'm a senior still. So like I just put the year. Should I add like the month that those like take place, or like when I started it too? Because they like happen every year, but it's only for a few months. So I don't know how I should like write that.
I would probably put, so like, for example, so you say they happen for a few months. I'd maybe put like, just for example, May to June, and then put like 2022, comma 2021, like however, or sorry, 2020,
Okay.
comma 2021, or however many years, but then just do the months just once, you know? Does that
Okay.
make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Other big questions?
Something that I will say though, because yeah, thinking that I think all of you are in more of a technical type field. Something that, I mean, most of the clients I deal with are not in a tech field necessarily, but you really want to put those tech skills near the top of your resume. And I just didn't even think of you guys having so many of them yet. But if you do happen to have certifications or specific you know, softwares or things that you know, I think I said on one of the resumes, put it at the bottom, but in the tech field, you actually want that to be front and center. So make sure, I would still put education first, but then have your technical skill. Well, you can have your technical skills first and then education. Doesn't really matter. Just have it up
I think
there.
it's a toss up.
Yeah. Have it up there in your education somewhere, because that's what employers are really going to be looking to make sure that you have.
And I think to piggyback off that point, if nothing else, don't leave it off. That's the key. Whereas like, I'll be honest, when I'm writing a resume, folks, I don't put a whole bunch of my skill areas because I don't have certifications and technical skills. I've just done a lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I were coming out of a lot of the programs like you folks are, I would be listing those technical skills in a much more prominent location and making sure they're on there front and center. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Renee.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you guys are learning this stuff yet, but like, I'll pull from my husband, for example. He did industrial engineering, so he like in his associate's program learned like CAD, and I'm trying to think what else there are. There's like those special things that they use, lean processes, you know, Six Sigma. If you learn anything about that, like all that kind of stuff is great to include. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, for the resume that you're putting together for your actual contest, basic, right? Hitting the points, basic. You're not going to be judged on what you included necessarily and how you included it. But they are going to be looking for some key areas. And these are the key areas that they want to make sure you incorporate. And they don't want it to look a hot mess, right? So the grammar, the spelling, the organization of it all, like they want to be able to read it. It needs to be very clean. It has to be one page. If it's over one page, you get deducted points. So things like that to keep in mind. And for any of you who put together a resume and just aren't sure, you can always send it over. I can take a look at it and give you feedback. You can always have folks at your school take a look at it and give you feedback. But you're all going to have one at least for your contest, and you'll be able to drop those in the learning management system in the championships hub prior to your contest, or You might have to bring a hard copy to your physical contest, depending on where that's happening and everything else. But you want to make sure you have at least one built.
One more tiny thing I'll say is a lot of times people will forget consistency. So once you're done with your resume, make sure you look back, make sure you have consistent font throughout. You're not using 2 different fonts or whatever. Check that your bullets and like your lettering are all the same font size, because I've seen big and small and different. I've seen like 3 different types of bullets be used on a resume. So like just make sure that you're being consistent, because especially, I mean, Jessa just said you may have to physically bring it. It pops out like a sore thumb on a piece of paper if you don't have consistency on your resume. So just make sure to look through that as well.
The other piece I would recommend, this is just a total side note, try to never turn in your document as a Word doc, make it a PDF, because then when somebody downloads it to look at, it won't mess with the formatting. I can't tell you how many resumes I've looked at when I was on hiring committees where there was a Word doc and they would upload it and it would look perfect on their end, and I would go to download and it just jacked it all up. So PDF all the way. And that's another great rule of thumb for if you're uploading your resume for contests, make it a PDF and then upload the document. And if you're not sure how to do that, it's very, very easy to save a Word document as a PDF. So don't worry about all, that being a fancy process or anything like that. Any other questions while we still have Renee?
Yeah, I had another quick one. So I have like my schooling, I have like work experience and then school and leader or school and like activities, school activities and just outside activities. And then I have like my leadership below that. But like the leadership roles are related to my activities. Should I like combine those or should I keep them separate?
It's hard to say without seeing it.
I know, Renee, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh man, it's so much easier when you can look at it.
I can share it.
Yeah,
wanna
that'd
share
be
your screen,
great.
Sydney?
Because I can see where it would work in both scenarios. So I'd like to see. Did you give her co-host?
I just did.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Great formatting, by the way. Okay. School and community activity. Well, I like seeing it different here, in my personal opinion, because you've been involved in SkillsUSA as a participant longer than you've been in leadership. So it's kind of showing, progression. What are your thoughts on that, Jessa?
Yeah, I think probably the same. I think that, Sydney, again, the more experience you get, you'll start to drop off or combine, right? But right now, this sounds terrible, but it's almost like you're trying to fill space, because it's weird. You don't want to have like what looks like 4 lines and then 3/4 of a blank page, right? And so it's kind of weird when you only have so many things. And you're incredibly involved, so don't take that the wrong way. You know what I mean? But I think it's smart to list it like, these are all the things I'm involved in, but this is where I've taken a leadership role, right? And then you list that out and the length of time and everything else. I think this looks good for now. And then in another year or 2, you'll just combine all that.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say bye to them. Bye, class. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Bye.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jeff.
you too. All right. One thing I was quickly going to say, like, I'm curious. I mean, you've been involved in Girl Scouts for so long, and I know that there's so many like leadership things and, different experiences that you've probably been involved in with that. That might be interesting to see some more bullets under. And then like having been vice president and president, like I kind of want to know more about what you did. So I'm kind of like on the same page with Jessa, where maybe just take out the Skills USA under your community activities and then use some space to maybe expand in some of those areas. You don't have to.
No, Renee, I'm so glad you said that, because Sydney, think about it. Think of all of the things that you do as president for Skills USA, right? This is a big deal. And just looking at that, nobody would know all the role that you've had, right?
Actually,
and so I think you fleshed that out.
She has honors down there with the Girl Scouts Awards. I just noticed that, but I would almost maybe combine them. Like instead of having them in two separate places, I would put those awards under your Girl Scouts thing. And then if you have more to expand on and what else you did, feel free to put that in there. But I mean, seriously, I'm not kidding you. Employers eat up Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Yeah, they
love
do.
seeing your commitment and, you know, the training that you received. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. The other thing is this is what I was talking about earlier. I know Girl Scouts started a long time ago, but it's still present.
Yeah.
So you should actually move that up to be under Skills USA.
Yeah.
You know what? As I'm talking, hear me out. I think, so yeah, move it there. I think you should have your Skills USA like it is. I would actually move your Skills USA president and vice president under it. So then it looks like not a job, but like, you know how you do a job and then there's like those.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. And I would rename this section, instead of school and community activities, I would maybe say leadership and involvement, or leadership and community, like just make it all in one section, because then it's going to be tidier. And then you can also add your Mounds View health walk co-chair thing, because I just would add it in there.
Okay.
And then you can get rid of the leadership and the honors area. And then, so now it looks more clean, and I know your resume is shorter now, but if you go back in and add more bullets to your president stuff and everything, I think that it will look great.
Okay.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we tackled that.
This is why, Sydney, this is why it helps to see it. And then you can see like both Renee and I, it's like, let me process through this. When I make my own resumes or when I've helped people with theirs, I'm constantly like, well, I'm going to try this here, and then I'm going to move it here, and then I'm going to call it this, and then I'm going to do this. It's just, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of workshop a resume.
Now, here's my question. For the National Honor Society, how long have you been part of that?
Yeah, I was just going to add that.
Okay.
I have to go real quick, so is it fine if I leave?
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
Bye,
Yeah, if you guys need to go, you can go for sure. Don't feel like you have to stay.
Also, Renee, would it be fine if I could email you my resume later?
Let me put it in the chat. Hold on. I did have like a goodbye slide, and it even had an office gif, and I was so excited about it. But where did I've lost the chat. Hold on, you guys. What the heck?
Did you move it to a different screen?
I found it.
I do that sometimes.
Jobs, or you know what? I'm just gonna give you my personal one. No, I lied. I'm gonna give you this one. Cool. So either or any of you can email me here, and also Jessa. I mean, feel free to share with Jeff in his class if they want to send it to me as well. So
definitely.
All
Thank you,
right.
Renee.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much
Omar.
for coming. Okay, well, I don't want to just keep you guys, so if you feel like you're good, like I said, feel free to email me again if you're like, all right, I fixed stuff. Can I just get a final look over? And I'm happy to do that for you.
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm good. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thanks, Sydney.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
I think we can probably stop recording.
No, I want to record it all.